be, the number one concern of the CIO is how you lock it down. You've got somebody who's got some data in their own personal device, might be sensitive data, intellectual property, who knows what it is, but you have to figure out a way to manage that. There's a lot of concern out there about what happens if somebody either rips off or finds a lost device that has sensitive information on it. This first session is really all about BYOD and securing corporate data in a device that doesn't actually belong to the company. And so first what I want to do is I want to bring up our judges for this session, which is mobile access to what's behind the firewall. And I want to bring up Alan Bohm from Coca-Cola. Alan, are you here? Come on up. And while he's coming up, Art King from Nike, and Steve Philpott from Amylin Pharmaceuticals. Come on up, guys. And I'm going to ask you three just to give a brief introduction of who you are, what you do at your companies, and then we'll bring up our startups. So we'll start with you, Alan. So what is it that you do at Coke?
So I'm responsible for enterprise architecture and emerging technologies. Coke, I think everybody here has had a Coke in their life probably, or one of our products. We have 500 some odd different brands out there. But what people don't realize is the complexity of Coke. And so when we look at the emerging space for technology, we look at it. Google does about 4.5 billion searches a day, which is pretty good. We actually serve 1.8 billion Cokes a day, or Coke products a day. So you put that into the physical world, you start thinking about the supply chains and what you have to do from a technology perspective to support it. It's fairly complex.
Mm-hmm. And like Yobi, are you inclined to work with a startup as long as you know it's going to last?
Yeah, we work with a fair amount of startups, probably 2 or 3 a year. We bring in constantly running proof of concepts in a whole variety of areas. Some of them go forward, some of them don't. We also work with a lot of labs and spend a lot of time in many of the labs as well.
Okay, Art, Nike.
I'm the internal enterprise architecture team, so we do all the plumbing and the interior stuff for all the employees and contractors that connect to our infrastructure. Primarily in the mobility space, but we're touching so many other things in that conversation because it's a kind of a 360-degree thing. It's not just mobility and security, it's all the dimensions of it. And I've got an interesting universe because I have to engineer for a global creative community that is very right-brained. So,
I'm sorry, very what?
Right-brained.
Right, okay.
As far as we have to get it right, make it crisp, make it perfect, intuitive. So the whole consumer world that we see in our personal life, we aspire on the architecture side to deliver as close to the consumer experience as possible.
Okay. And of course, Nike sort of a leader in mobility and exercise and working out and stuff like that. You got the shoes, the technology in the iPhone.
Yeah. And we have a huge digital presence, on the exterior side of the brand business that faces that whole market space and the valley and that kind of thing.
And your likelihood to work with startups?
We work with a ton of startups. Like every architect, I'm wandering around with kind of a cloud of unsolved problems floating above my head. So we're constantly looking to influence people, influence direction, get our needs out there so that perhaps, somebody will build it.
Somebody in the room?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Steve, returning alumni here, and also we know you really well from the Information Week 500, so
thanks, David. Steve Philpott, CIO for Amylin Pharmaceuticals. For those that don't know Amylin, we do drugs for diabetes and obesity. We just received FDA approval in January for the very first weekly diabetes drug on the market right now. We deal in a heavily regulated industry, and so part of what we're looking for in this particular area is how do we continue to, along our strategy of enabling the mobile workforce, how do we enable that but at the same time meet our FDA regulatory responsibilities about what we can and can't do with data out to end users, customers, or employees internally. As far as using new technology, I've been here, I think this might be my 5th year here, or 4th year, and one of the very first years we were here, we actually used a company called Nirvonics, which was in a panel, and then they got Best of Year, or Best of Award that particular year. So we definitely use the technology we see here.
So you have a nose for winners, is what you're saying. Makes you,
Okay, I'll let you call that, yep.
makes it appropriate to have you up here at the table as a judge.
Oh, I appreciate it, thanks.
Great. All right, so we've got our judges here, and it's time to get the show on the road. We're going to bring up our first presenting company. The name of the company is Bitzer Mobile, and we've got Naeem Zafar. Naeem, come on up and take the stage. You've got 6 minutes to make your best elevator pitch, and we'll get it going. Go ahead.
Let's grab the clicker.
Clicker is over here.